Apparently, it costs up to $550,000 to get a 2.5-minute trailer in Summer Game Fest. Sounds like a lot, which it is, but I'll explain why it's a great deal, why this is business as usual, and the ways I think you could tell which trailers were paid and which weren't. In a recent Esquire article, it was revealed that to get a trailer into Summer Game Fest cost $250,000 for a 1-minute trailer, $450,000 for a 2-minute trailer, and $550,000 for a 2.5-minute trailer. For comparison, the most recent Super Bowl charged $7 million for a 30-second spot. According to Statista.com, it cost over $800,000 to air a 30-second ad during NBC Monday Night Football. Ads aired during The Voice and Grey's Anatomy cost around $200,000, and a spot during Young Sheldon apparently cost around $160,000. These certainly sound comparable, but due to the nature of Jeff Keighley's shows, I think there really is no comparison. Because as much as people watch the Super Bowl for the ads, most people aren't really watching for the ads. And for normal TV, no one is watching for the ads. When people tune in to watch a Jeff Keighley run show, they really are there to watch ads. This is one thing that makes the show such an anomaly. Can you think of any other thing in the world where people watch a 2-hour show of ads? So because of that warm audience the show brings in, I think this makes the value so much higher than an ad during a TV show in prime time. You can charge a lot of money to place an ad if you know there are going to be a lot of eyeballs looking in that space, like a billboard on the side of the highway. But if you can guarantee the eyes watching this space are choosing to look, and they're going to be extra receptive to what they see, of course you can charge even more. Also, Jeff Keighley builds earned editorial placements into the show, which basically means people submit their games, and if he really likes it and wants it in the show, they get in for free. That's potentially millions of dollars left on the table. Can you imagine the Super Bowl airing something for free because they liked the thing being advertised? I think he does this because he genuinely likes games, and I think it earns him some goodwill in the industry. For indie games, one of the free slots is pretty much the only way for them to get in, since those numbers can be the budget of entire games, depending on the team size. Otherwise, I don't think there would be games in the show like Cuff Bust, Deer and Boy, or Cairn. Basically, an indie game has to earn itself onto the show by being exceptional in some way. There are a tiny percentage of indies successful enough to even think of paying for a spot, but I think once an indie reaches that level of success, Jeff Keighley is going to want to give them a free spot anyway. If anything, to inject some color into the show. Take that as you will. So, is this money even worth it? I saw comments saying stuff like, "That's ridiculous, just tweet the trailer or post it on YouTube," which there's no comparison, even if the trailer gets millions of views. Wout V, PR manager at PlayStack, the publisher who released Balatro, framed it well by saying, "A slot at Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards doesn't just get you views. Every gaming outlet in the world will cover your title, will remember your title, and it makes it easier to find your title for the rest of your campaign. That's why you pay the big bucks." He's absolutely right. Think of all the reaction videos, the co-streams, the write-ups, the analysis during and afterwards, the people live posting with their favorite games from the shows. Also, how those events bring press, influencers, and others to the physical space to then talk to developers, write stories, and make videos. A big event like the Game Awards multiplies the reach of your game in ways other marketing efforts do not. There are few guarantees in marketing, but one is the fact that basically everyone across the industry watches the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest. And anytime someone is guaranteeing you something, that's when you pay up. If you're a AAA game that's going to spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions on marketing, $550,000 is a drop in the bucket. I mean, that Squad Busters ad with all the Hollywood stars must have easily cost millions of dollars to make. And if right now you're thinking a game in Summer Game Fest might still be forgotten in the sea of others, I think there's no more appropriate time for this meme. The memorable games during Summer Game Fest, the less memorable games during Summer Game Fest, every other game not in the show. There are, of course, many other shows like Wholesome Direct, Future of Play, PC Gaming Show, Day of the Devs, Future Games Show, The Mix, and The Spawnies, and those are also very important for visibility, especially for smaller games. And within those shows, you will also find a mix of editorial spots and sponsored spots. They won't be as expensive because their views aren't as high, but still high enough that some can charge up to tens of thousands of dollars for a spot. Here's a graph of the peak viewers for gaming shows in 2023. The more eyeballs, the more valuable the space is going to be. But how necessary is all of this? As someone who's seen what happens, or doesn't happen, after a game trailer is released, I know it's incredibly hard to get people to watch your trailer. The quality of the game in the trailer doesn't matter as much as you think. Most developers have an insignificant number of followers on their social media channels, and few publishers have the loyalty of, say, Devolver Digital. Games that organically go viral, like Untitled Goose Game, are exceptionally rare. And it's important to note, even that revealed trailer only has 787,000 views on its YouTube posting, and that's after 6 years. Even if you add all the reaction videos, it's not going to be in the tens of millions of views, and those are the ideal scenarios. This is why game devs and publishers work with PR marketing folks to get the connections to get the trailer featured in big online showcases, or the channels of IGN, or first-party platforms like Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, where they at least have a chance at more visibility, because even those aren't guarantees. Indie games regularly don't even approach tens of thousands of views on their trailers, and even an IGN feature is no guarantee of hundreds of thousands of views. So, how can you tell which trailers in Summer Game Fest were paid and which weren't? This is where I dive into heavy speculation mode, and I'm almost sure to be wrong a lot, but here goes. Firstly, the best way to know is actually to be at the live event. I attended last year's Game Awards live, and if Summer Games Fest is at all similar, the sponsored ads played on the side monitors of the theater, and the main show trailers showed on the main stage screen. So whenever sponsored ads showed up, everyone in the theater was just talking to each other or pulling out their phones. But for most people watching online, it's more ambiguous. One thing I'm speculating is, anything which did not receive an intro was a paid spot. Jeff isn't going to intro Samsung Gaming Hub or an Accolades trailer for Asgard's Wrath 2, a game which is already out. Also, if after a bunch of trailers played, then Jeff said,
"All right, welcome back to Summer Game Fest,"
that probably meant you just watched a bunch of paid spots. But also, if Riot Games comes knocking on Jeff's door to show an update to Valorant during the main show, I'm guessing he's not going to say, "Why yes, I'll let you in for free." So games from huge companies or first-party platforms are also very likely paying to be there. Also, look at what trailers are on the official Game Awards YouTube channel like Cairn, Deer and Boy, and Fatal Fury versus which games aren't on the channel, like Black Myth Wukong, Asgard's Wrath 2, Warhammer Space Marine 2, Inatria The Last Song, Squad Busters, and others. In light of how difficult it is to get your trailer seen, the value of a not only very large but relatively warm audience, tuning in explicitly to watch ads, these prices make total sense, but again, at the scale AAA games and big companies market at, this is not a lot of money for them. For some perspective on the numbers, Stephanie Tinsley, who does PR and marketing consulting for Devolver Digital, had this to say about the non-industry people absolutely balking at these prices. Sitting here eating chips and guac with an NBC advertising executive, and she's laughing her ass off at the tweets I'm showing her about today's gaming advertising discourse. She also says, it's a really good deal.